You're listening to the Beer Craft Beer and Brewing Podcast. Tune in every Wednesday night at 6:30 Pacific for a dose of beer and brewing banter with your hosts, Ben Holm and Andrew Ziegler.
A 24-pack of wit and wisdom in the Pacific Northwest, because it's always beer 30 on
The Beer Craft.
Somewhere in Skagit Valley, beer is vanishing. H&M, it's true. Beers are disappearing from fridges and pints faster than we can track. Local brewers are making beer so fresh and flavorful. And Northwest Brewer Supply? The source of the phenomenon. They supply the tools, ingredients, and knowledge to create brews that defy logic and gravity.
The truth is out there, and it's at Northwest Brewer Supply. Visit nwbrewers.com.
Welcome back to the Beer Craft, folks.
Where Andrew and I are breaking down everything you need to know to make your next batch your best batch.
And today we're tackling a question we get all the time from extract brewers. What's our next step? Well, you've nailed it, extract brewing. And now you're wondering what's the next step on your brewing journey? Spoiler alert, it is all grain brewing.
All grain brewing may sound intimidating, but it's really just the next logical step. It's going to give us more control over flavors, ingredients, color, mouthfeel, and trust us, it's not as scary as it sounds.
No, it's not. By the end of this episode, you'll know what you need to get started with. The process from start to finish and how to make it work without breaking the bank. And as always, we've got some fun stories and tips to share along the way. But before we can do anything, we must do something very important. These vocal cords don't wet themselves. It's time for Beer 30.
Andrew, how the heck are you, sir?
All right. Well, I'm feeling a little parched over here, I guess.
I imagine you are, because I am too. I got something special. I was down at some committee meeting, but I ran into Ron Extract and Amber from Garden Path Brewing.
Yes.
And they were nice enough to share with me their Twisted Branch Out, a rustic IPA. I think it's a Saison IPA.
Ooh.
Yeah, and you know, you mentioned that from Fresh Hop Festival back on episode blah, blah, blah. And that made me drool a lot. So here we are. Here we go. I forgot to do that over by the microphone. My bad. Rookie mistake. Kind of nice and light color.
Light straw
Blonde.
color. A little haze it.
Little haze, yeah.
Okay, a little haze it.
Let me top your head off there.
Oh, give me some of the aroma.
Let's see, what do we got? Anything on the labeling here? Native yeast, wild conditioned with honey.
It's got a good.
Oh, that's that Saison. That's that Saison.
nose.
Yeah.
Kind of that wild,
earthy kind
nose.
of.
Tiny bit of hops.
Yeah. It's making me thirsty.
It's really sweet at first. Oh, and then it goes sour. Whoa, it hits me right here. Both sides at the same time.
Yeah.
Wow, nice.
That's got some nice
good.
tartness. Little lemon.
Did you get the sweetness at the beginning?
Very sweet. Yeah, like right
that was
there.
Cool.
And quickly disappearing. Yeah. Nice dry finish, kind of really crisp. That tart in the salivary gland tartness is really cool. Got a lemon kind of crushable lemon thing going on there.
Lemon flavor.
I should have snagged 2 cans.
Oh, why not? I don't know.
What the hell's wrong with me?
Well, are we only having a half a beer for beer 30?
Oh no.
Okay.
That's just an aperitif.
Ah, gotcha. Well, since we have another, then yeah,
Because I got this big boy right here.
What is this?
It's a 750 ml. It's another saison. This one comes to us from Jeremiah Johnson, one of our customers. Thank you, Jeremiah.
Right.
Wherever you are tonight.
Thank you, sir.
I even have the recipe for this one, so we get to peruse that as we're drinking it. We can. He was in the shop today, and he asked me about the beer. I'm like, as a matter of fact, I have not got to consume that, but I'm going to do so on air tonight.
On air, you can hear us. Sweet.
Yeah, so it'll be, of course, that was, we're at a 2-week time schedule, or 2-week production schedule. So, he was in a day. He's going to hear about it in 2 weeks.
Right.
He knows that. I really like this IPA from Garden Path.
I do too.
It's not super bitter.
It's not super bitter. It says rustic IPA.
Yeah. Then the rusticy kind of.
Yeah, because
it's a hop forward
saison and hop forward saison. Saison's not going to be that hoppy. Yeah, it's really good.
But it can be. I mean, like, saison is got probably the broadest range of color, aroma, ABV, and so I wonder about like the IBU range. I imagine it's also probably pretty broad. This is a style of beer that is almost no style.
Right.
Whatever's in season, right?
What would you put it in? And just the catch-all.
Right. I mean, it does have its roots in certain regions. It is a distinctive element, but saison, that name means season in French. So these would be the farmhouse beers. What comes up, right? If it's rye before wheat, or whenever the barley comes on, and what are you gonna brew with it? Well, what else do we have?
We have our wild yeast that we just brewed. Yep. And you just keep on going.
Yeah.
Whatever you can
have
brew with, from
light to darker finishing beers with a host of ingredients and crushable and profiles. I like them. It is all about the yeast. The yeast is the star of the show.
So I can come in, start with a light saison get one of your light saison recipes.
Mm-hmm.
Make me a light saison, then save that yeast and come back and get some maybe darker grains. Now my cost is lower because I'm using this saison yeast.
Right.
And I'm gonna give it a little bit of a darker grain, put a little more hops on it, make it a little more hop forward, maybe a little more malt forward, but still with that same yeast. And
you're making me thirsty the whole time you're doing it.
Keep it going.
Well, I mean, production level brewing, they are going to be reusing yeast to keep costs down for sure. Did you when you were? Yeah, you repitch. Yeah.
Yep. Because you usually was, during the same brew, we're doing one thing, and then while we're doing the brewing tasks, we are also doing some of the fermentation tasks.
Sure.
And we clean the fermenter.
And you're there every day.
We're ready.
Yeah.
We have to secondary, and then put the yeast in, clean the fermenters while we're brewing all grain, while we're during my brew day.
Right. It's not just like
rotation.
It's not just our one weekend. Every 3 or 4 weeks that we get to play in the brew house.
Right.
As hobby brewers.
Now, when I did that, though, I used to do that when I was a hobby brewer, and I would save it in the mason jars. So you'd save it in a mason jar, and then you would make sure you put an inch of beer over the top of it, on the top,
right,
like a head. That preserved it, and everything has to be super sanitized.
Oh my God, yeah. And that's where I always got hung up, because I'm at the end of the day I kind of default to a lazy brewer.
Yeah.
And it's like I have big ambitions on brew day. Good push. Big ambitions on brew day.
But it takes a lot to be
3 weeks later I'm tired and I don't want to get out of bed, or shoot, I'm just gonna buy more yeast. I got enough.
You own a brew store.
I got a lot of it, man.
I got a lot of yeast.
Yeah.
But guys like me, I'm trying to save $1 here and $1 there on my beer. I want my beer to cost me as less as possible.
Sure.
So by washing my yeast out of there,
being cost sensitive, especially these days, and gosh, liquid yeast is doubled in cost. everywhere. Yeah, it's
How much does it cost?
$13.99 a pack. Yeah.
Wow.
That's a little rough.
That's double.
Yeah. There's products like Imperial Organics out of Portland.
I don't think my wage.
They've got a $12 one. Yeah. No, it didn't. They got 12. Their retail pricing is like $12.99, but there's twice as much yeast in those packs, so it's at least a better perceived value on liquid yeast. There's a lot of new dry yeasts out there, including one we're drinking tonight. This farmhouse ale. This will be a new yeast for me. I've not used it. It's a hybrid saison yeast from Lallemand. I'm going to have to confirm it, but I believe this is a non-diastatic variant, meaning it's not going to continue to eat dextrins in the bottle. I did look it up the other day for Jeremiah. We were talking about it, and now I just can't remember.
How do they get that yeast to do that?
Well, probably crossbreeding with a STA negative strain. STA, I think it is the gene for the.
You would know more than me.
I tried.
I would be AST or something.
Yeah. I'm just
dyslexic.
trying to stay 2 questions ahead of the class. But it's a farm. It's another saison strain I haven't tried before. The liquid strain, 3711 from Weiss is probably my favorite saison strain on the planet. This is hitting me. I know Garden Path harvested their own yeast, but this is the flavor profile today is hitting me in the same places that 3711 does.
Yeah.
So
cool.
fantastic.
Well,
Ron, way to go.
Nice.
I'm enjoying that beer. I should have stolen another can.
Well, we have a yeast episode coming up, right? So maybe we can incorporate a little bit of this hybrid saison yeast to talk about it, and maybe we can get a little tiny interview from
Ron.
Ron.
I know we could get an interview. He was. I broached that topic a couple of weeks ago before the holiday, and they're like very cool. Mari from Chuckanut Brewing is down, so that's very that'd be cool too.
Yep.
Yeah. Looking forward to the 2025 lineup here on the Beercraft Beer and Brewing Podcast. We're gonna get to do some fun stuff, and you're gonna get to hear about it. My glass is empty.
Whoa.
So it is time.
Are you hurrying me along here?
Well, I'm just saying, I'm thirsty, man.
I just didn't want to rush this one. It's crushable.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, it's crushable.
I did crush it. It's
You did.
positive.
You did. It's crushable, but I wanted to enjoy it.
So here's a farmhouse saison from Jeremiah Johnson. Get that glass over here. This is bottle condition, so I don't want to
Disturb it too much.
I mean, it was laying on its side in the cooler all week. I tipped it up today. Hopefully it settled it out. Yeah. But it settled out pretty good. I've got a lot of head. I poured with vigor, as the legendary Charlie Bamforth would say. Charlie Bamforth of UC Davis. As head of, he was the former head of brewing
But it
education
did
out there.
afford you less volume in your glass.
It does.
Yep.
It does. But look at that. It's a nice rocky head. So Jeremiah is offering today, the farmhouse saison. We've got an orange, definitely in the orange spectrum.
Yep.
From that.
Orange, light rust.
Yeah.
Yep.
Pretty.
Clear.
Good head. I got a great head.
You got a great head. I have a slightly
Well, I poured yours a little
less
gentler.
rocky.
Yeah, but it's got a nice tight,
It's got
tight
little lakes
formation.
on the
Yeah.
outside of it.
Yeah. All right.
Very good.
Smell test.
Not getting much aromas. But then my sniffer bite. That's okay,
It's
though.
got like a little bubble gummy kind of aroma.
Yeah, sweet bubble gummy.
Yeah, that's really good. It's one of those
That's a hybrid saison yeast.
Yeah. Yeah, we definitely get some of that bubblegum ester in there, which shouldn't, I mean, by all accounts has a bad, it's a descriptor with a bad marketing campaign. Like, I do not think beer and bubblegum sound great together. However, when you find it in a Hefeweizen, Saison, or some of these Belgian beers, it's really tasty. Like it works surprisingly well.
Right.
No.
It doesn't taste like it's something wrong.
Right. Not clashing.
Right.
No.
It goes with it.
I was not expecting the bubblegum. Let's see. What does it say? We have the recipe here. So original gravity on this beer, 1052. Final gravity coming in at 1.011, 28 IBUs. Color came in at 11 SRM. Malts, he had 70% two-row, 20% biscuit malt, 4% Crystal 10, and 4.4% Crystal 10, and 4.4% flaked rye. And then we did for bittering, he's got Chinook, and then Amarillo and Hallertauer for some later additions.
Yeah, how much Chinook?
It's looking like an out in a. Is this a 10-gallon batch, or it looks like it was a 10-gallon batch? Yeah, this was a 10-gallon batch. So he's got an ounce of Chinook in 10 gallons, an ounce of Amarillo, and an ounce of Hallertauer. So Amarillo is a 10-minute edition. Hallertauer is a flame out.
Yep.
Yep.
Well, I like the Chinook selection. I think it goes well with a type of beer.
It's a workhorse. I use that one. I probably abuse that one.
I think next time maybe an ounce and a half.
A little bit.
A little bit more hoppy.
Yeah, I could stand a little more IBU action on it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 28 on paper. It's definitely a malt. With that bubble gum, you've got a nice malt presence in there. I think it could. Yeah, I agree. I would agree with 1.5 OZ, and I will be sure to tell him that tomorrow when I see him. Give him the notes that. But man, tasty beer.
Tasty. See, when you provide the beer craft with some good beer and we give you feedback, we're going to give you feedback like tomorrow. We're not going to wait for you to listen to the episode.
But it's fun to listen to. Yeah.
It's great to listen to your beer review.
Let's see, what else can we glean from this? Yeah. Mash temperature,
So the
150 to 152.
The biscuit malt.
Yeah, and biscuit malt or I think it was actually a Victory malt.
Victory. Is that a 6-row then?
I believe it's a toasted 2-row kind of.
Toasted
yeah.
2-row.
Non-diastatic.
Non-diastatic.
Yeah, it is considered like a roasted malt, so no diastatic potential, but usually gives off those bread biscuity kind of malty tones.
Adds to the profile of this.
Yeah, it's one of those you got to if you're doing all grain brewing, fine for all grain brewing. Doesn't do much in an extract because there's no diastatic potential in any of that.
Yeah.
Really enjoying that beer. I'm gonna top off a little fuzzy. I'm gonna get a little yeast on that one, but that's okay. I need my vitamins.
I think it's flavorful.
That's right. You want a little more in there?
Sure.
Need your vitamins too. Ooh, that's yum. Thank you, Jeremiah.
Jeremiah, thank you.
Fantastic.
Cheers to Jeremiah.
Cheers.
So we're going to be delving into the all grain scenes.
We are too.
How did it start for you? Oh, you said it started on almost like your first day brewing, right?
It was batch 3 for me.
Batch 3.
Yeah, I did 2 extract batches. No, it was batch 4.
Batch 4.
I did the Cooper's kit, and then I did the pale ale and the black IPA kits from the brew supply store, Northwest Brewer Supply, and then for extract, I'm like, man, I got to do all grain for sure.
Right on.
Yeah. And so I remade the black IPA as an all grain batch. Oh, it was an affair. It was terrible. I had my mash, trying to get a gravity feed system, but no rack to put it on. So I had chairs on top of tables
in your garage.
Yeah. It was what a mess. I went as far as like rigging up, little shelf supports on the wall that I could put my ladder on to hold my hot liquor tank up way up high in the air. And my buddy came over, and he's an electrician, and 10 gallons of water floating around by my hot water or my electrical box, fuse box. He's like, that's probably not a good idea. I was like, you're probably right about that. It was a show. It was a show. Dang, that beer.
Yeah. Well,
yeah. So for us, we're just back from this is the first time we were back in the studio since the holiday break.
First of the year for us.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing really good.
Good.
I spent a couple weeks down in Arizona, dried out.
Yeah.
It
Your
was
knees
nice.
started working again.
Yeah.
And get some vitamin D in you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Got vitamin D for sure. I didn't know what to do. It was never rainy. There was not a cloud in the sky.
It was pretty mild up here. You didn't miss much.
Yeah.
It wasn't too cold. I have a feeling we're going to pay for that later.
I'm waiting for snow.
The sun came out today, so tomorrow
It did.
has to be crap.
Yeah.
Right, like that's the rule in Washington, I think.
Get one, you lose one.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to snow soon, I think. Maybe it won't. Let's hope.
I hope it snows in the hills.
Snow.
I'm hoping it snows in the mountains. Because there's no snow up there.
No.
One of my
bigger.
customers today was talking about their some baker cabin kind of thing that you usually can't get to in the winter. They were able to get up to it, drive all the way to the cabin.
Wow.
Road wasn't closed.
Yep.
Yeah. It was
Right.
like-
Wasn't that low yet.
Yeah. So, shoot, like that makes for an interesting fire season, for sure. If we don't get any snow.
Maybe it'll just
Yeah.
continue to rain. And we'll be fine.
It'll just be wet all year long. Yeah, Noah only had 40 days and 40 nights. It clearly wasn't in Washington.
No. But it was 40 days and 40 nights all over.
So I think that's going to wrap up the Beer 30 segment here. We're going to go take a little break.
We're not done with the beer, but we're done with the segment.
done with the segment. We're going to little ad break, go pay some bills. And when we get back, it's we're going to dive deep dive into your first all grain batch. So
That's
stick
right.
around.
Stick around.
Agent M, this doesn't add up. How does something as simple as yeast turn into beer? It's not simple, Agent X. It's yeast at work, transforming sugars into something extraordinary. Northwest Brewer Supply teaches brewers how to harness the power of fermentation. So they're training people to control it? Exactly. They're real agents of change, one brew at a time.
Beer isn't magic, it's mastery. Learn the secret at Northwest Brewer Supply. Visit nwbrewers.com.
So your first all grain batch. I mean, first things first, we got to talk about is equipment. And the good news is you don't need to completely overhaul your whole setup to get into all grain brewing. You probably have, you've got most of it already.
Yeah, exactly. If you've been extract brewing, you have a kettle,
Maybe something in the 8 to 10 gallon
10
range.
gallon. Well, at least I hope.
Yeah.
Unless you're doing really micro, you got a fermenter. You got the basic gear. For all grain brewing, the key additions are the mash lauter ton and a way to sparge. Vocabulary warning: sparge is a fancy word for rinsing your grains.
Love it. Spodging. Look at all the things you get to learn here on the Beer Craft. So a mash
Fancy
tun,
words.
there's another vocabulary word. A mash tun, mash lauter tun. This can be as simple as a cooler with a false bottom, maybe another 8 to 10, something in another kettle perhaps with a false bottom, or your original kettle with a mesh bag in it. That's a process called a brew in a bag. Fantastic place to start. When I got started, I built my own from a pair of 10-gallon igloo cooler with a stainless steel braided hose. It worked like a charm. I had 2 of them, one for the mash tun and then one to keep the sparge water, so a hot liquor tank. That just kept the sparge water. I know, another fancy word.
Another fancy word, yeah.
Hot liquor tank is just a place to store hot water for sparging. Andrew, what was your first?
Very similar. 10-gallon cooler. But what I had was it was a igloo in a round, like a water cooler.
Yeah, that the kind that you pour the
over the coach.
For football. That's the one I had.
And so I had a round little domed plastic false bottom kind of thing, and it was domed so it'd sit up in there. Sit up from the center because I had a little elbow and the hose that went over to the spigot.
Yeah.
And so I could just let it, spigot it right out. I bought those things online. Mail order, easy enough. Now
because you were in Costa Rica.
Yeah. I think this was.
Or did you come back home yet?
I think I was in Arizona.
Okay.
Yeah, I was in Phoenix by then. I didn't have a hot liquor tank. I had 2. I think I had 2 burners by then, so I can heat one. Heat the water up. Oh wait, I didn't. I remember I heated
the way back machine.
Yeah, I heat the water up on the stove. In the house.
With 5 kettles on the stove.
Yep.
I used that igloo one for a couple of batches, and then actually you showed up with a couple of kegs that you got from, was that Black Raven? And you were frequenting them. No. Years ago, you called me up and you were like, hey, this brewery I'm at, they're retiring a bunch of kegs. Do you want them? They're like $20. So some retired kegs.
That was... No, it was another friend of mine, though.
Yeah.
It was a small brewery.
Yeah, a couple. So I got 2 of those, and I had to retrofit them and turn them into a stainless steel hot liquor tank and mash tun.
There you
go. Which was cool. So back to our equipment. You're gonna need 5 to 8 gallon vessel to hold your sparge water in, and that's sparge again. It just means rinsing your grains. So it might be another cooler on the stovetop or a 5 gallon kettle that you start. It might just be your kettle that you put into the cooler later. It might be 3 kettles on the stovetop, whatever you got kind of lying around to make hot water.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And if you're not a do-it-yourself type, there's some affordable options at Northwest Brewer Supply. So get to the shop, check out the segments, check out the setups. They fit every budget. Ben will help you out, or one of the other guys in there. Everybody's super friendly.
So once you got your gear, you are halfway there. So the next thing we got to talk about is your recipe, because not all grains are created equal.
No, they're not. Whoa, man. When it comes to your first all-grain batch, you need to keep it simple. We always kind of say that. Keep it simple. Trust me, this is not the time to dive into, say, triple decoction, 3 different temperatures of step mashing.
Yeah.
I mean, I ended up doing step mashing, which was my favorite. But you get.
But did you do it on your first round?
No. Single mash infusion.
Yeah.
Keep that.
This is the way. So I would choose. Yeah. So I would choose a recipe with a single infusion mash. It's 1 temperature you got to worry about. I also tend to advocate for maybe on your first batch keeping your ABVs to the 5.5% range. It's kind of a lower risk threshold. I mean, if you fuck it up, you're not out as much money. It's a little easier on the pocketbook when you're getting started.
Less grains, less hop.
Do you remember what your first all grain batch was, Andrew?
No.
Mine was I rebrewed the CDA from Northwest Brewer Supply, the Octopus Ink, and we didn't even have it the shop did not have it as an all grain recipe. So Trevor put it together. We converted the extract one, and man, that beer came out. I love that beer. I still love the beer. I'm gonna have to make that beer again.
You
it's
should.
Too long.
We'll have to taste it online here.
Do it. Done. It's done. I mean, like a month from now or 2 months from now. Next up, we did a water show. So this is, that's good stuff. But this is not the time if you're just getting started. It's not a time to start stressing about water chemistry.
Right.
Use good quality water. And I mean, if you're at all curious about water adjustments, check out episode 9, Brew Like a Pro Water Chemistry Essentials. We did that one, and that'll help. But
or go buy spring water.
Yeah, that's easy stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Your local store is going to have it. Any of them. So, and then select a recipe from a reputable source. Get something that's been tried and true. American Homebrewers Association has great recipes online. Homebrewers Friend has some good recipes.
It's a little hit. It can be a little hit or miss because anybody can put stuff up online, like Homebrewers Friend or the Beersmith one. So they're not as heavily vetted. We mentioned like the Clone Brews book. The reason I say this is because I've had published material come through the shop that was absurd. Something, it was labeled as a 7% pale ale, and it had 5 pounds of crystal malt in it. I'm like, what is this beer? This is ridiculous.
Right.
I was like, I don't know where I'm like, I can see the publisher, somebody paid money to put this book in print. Yeah. And I flipped through those recipes, and they were...
Like all of them?
They were all wacko. Like, I don't know if the editor really knew about beer and just put it together. Because they, some of these 7% beers only had, 10 pounds of grain. So they were really, I'm like, I'm wondering if this is using like a theoretical maximum on extraction or something.
That's a 3 gallon
100% extraction. Yeah. I was like, this is suspect.
Well, so with a 5 gallon batch, you use 10 pounds.
10 pounds of two-row puts you in that like, I kind of keep it in my head, I'm like 10 pounds for a normal strength beer, 8 pounds for a session, 12 pounds for an imperial, that kind of, those kind of ranges for my base malts.
Yeah.
And
sounds right.
Specialties can be a pound and a half. Is typical.
I mean, you can throw those in all you want.
Depending, I mean, you like crystal bombs.
If you like crystal bombs, like a northeastern IPA. Yeah. So don't forget your recipes, because Northwest Brewer Supply has the recipes as well.
Oh yeah, we got a full menu of them. It's great.
Probably anything you really want. And if you ask Ben, he will probably help you do a hybrid.
I've done 1 or 4 things like that. Yeah. I'm pretty good at it.
So now let's get into the heart of all grain brewing, mashing and sparging. Mashing is where the magic happens, converting those starches into fermentable sugars.
Yeah. So it's as simple as you're going to heat up some water, you're going to add your grains, and you're going to let them steep. It's like making a giant pot of oatmeal.
For your yeast?
Well, this is for the mash.
Okay.
Yeah. The yeast, they're going to eat oatmeal, but we're going to make the mash. Yeah.
The key is the temperature. Most recipes call for a range 150 to 153. Out of a range about 148 to 158, because all the temperatures here the enzymes will survive at certain temperatures. Enzymes in the grain convert starches into the simple sugars.
Yeah, so depending on that temperature, we can favor simple sugars to promote more fermentability, or larger sugars that are going to contribute to mouthfeel.
Yeah, I think of the mash temperature range like this. On one end, 148, we have a drier beer, a little to no body. It's going to be thin, thin mouthfeel, light lagerish, like your light lager.
Like a Coors Light.
Bud Light.
Yeah, we call those canoe sex because they're fucking near water.
Fucking near water. Do you know what I tasted this weekend?
What'd you do?
During the vacation. I had to do it. I had to. I saw Bud Light next. Bud Light next.
What the fuck is that?
Extra crisp, light, refreshing beer. It is brewed with light beer. Oh, God, I took a picture of it. Light beer. Hold on. All right. Super crisp light beer. Bud Light next. It is 0 carbs, 80 calories, 4%.
It's like a Michelob Ultra, the Bud Light version of Michelob Ultra.
It's light beer with natural flavors and fruit juice for color.
What?
That's what it is. Bud Light next.
How was it?
Horrible. Horrible. I mean, it didn't even taste like
It doesn't
beer.
sound like fucking beer.
It was basically, it's basically a beer flavored seltzer.
Yeah.
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 It's kind of like the.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what we were trying to produce with that non-alcoholic one.
Kind of, yeah.
But they had 5%, so it was like a seltzer. They had like a seltzer that they tried to make a beer-flavored seltzer out of. I get
beer
it.
flavored seltzer.
So back to the mash. We talked about, the low end of the range at 148. What about the other end of the spectrum?
Well, on the other end, we have a beer with enough body that it should hold a spoon up in it. What do you like, Guinness? I don't know.
Yeah, Guinness is pretty dry. Yeah.
Big jammy stout like Old Rasputin from North Coast Brewing Company.
Oh, those are tasty.
Super good.
So, so that's at like 100, 158. Kind of the range. We got more dextrins. There's another vocabulary word.
Yep.
Big clunky sugars. I kind of equate this one to the difference between chicken broth on the light end and chicken stock in terms of mouthfeel. Like you definitely have a sensory difference.
Yeah.
So if we want to get our mash to 152 degrees, it's kind of like right down the middle. We're going to start with water that's 162 degrees. On average, the starting water, or strike water, is 10 degrees warmer than your target mash.
You may see some fluctuation, like from season to season. Maybe when you change or you upgrade your mash tun, you'll see some performance changes. So make some notes to these changes that you see. And with time and some experience, you're going to be able to identify any problems you have, make the necessary adjustments for your next brew day.
Yeah, just write it down. I should mention, though, when you add your grains, the mash temperature, it's gonna your water temperature, is gonna equalize as the colder grains are gonna temper the water. So if we start at 162 degrees, add some grains in, and we should end up at 152 degrees. That's how that works.
Yeah. I forgot to mention, add your grains slowly to your water, because you don't want to, you could have all your grains in there and add your water slowly and stirring, but you have to be careful of the dough balls, what we call them.
The dreaded dough balls.
Yep, in the middle of your mash, in the center of your mash. And what I always like to do is stir. Do you have a stir paddle? This is something we have not mentioned. We didn't say in our equipment for all grain brewing that
I've never
had
a mash paddle.
No?
No, I've always just used a big spoon.
Oh, man.
Actually, these days I underlet my grain bed, so all my grains go in tempered mash tun, and I slowly fill water from below.
Yeah.
And that does a fairly good job of hydrating nice and slow.
Filling from the bottom.
And without dough balls. I'm like, I give it a quick stir at the end, and I'm done.
Yep.
Because I can do that. But a mash
A
paddle,
mash paddle is amazing.
a nice wide, a mash paddle like gets in there and kind of moves stuff around, and they are nice. But it was always for me. It became expensive. I didn't want.
I made one.
Like the dowel, gluing dowels together, or what did you make?
No. It was just a flat paddle made out of oak. I just had a 1x6. Just cut it up.
Gotcha.
Nice. Cut it up, routed it.
Yeah.
Sand it.
Put some holes in it.
No.
Yeah, kind of classic, like the way old school one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were talking about water, right? Doughing in. Your water volume is going to depend on your grain bill. So we're usually shooting for a water to grain ratio of about 1 to 2 quarts per pound of grain. It's some pretty easy math to figure that out. There's even easier one if we just take our grain weight and multiply that by 0.3. That will give us a target of like 1.2 pounds or 1.2 quarts per pound of grain, which is great, but it'll output in gallons. So you've got 10 pounds of grain times 0.3, you're starting with 3 gallons. It's really easy math.
If you don't want to do that easy math, pretty much just make sure you heat up a little extra water.
Always.
A little bit extra water. And then you put it in there, and you got about an inch above the mash grain of water.
It depends if you have room for it. You get
in
like a big imperial, you don't have room for all that with all that grain in there.
Your grain's not coming up to the top of your mash pad.
Well, I mean, you're not going to... On a 15-gallon kettle, I mean, I put 32 pounds of grain in that sumbitch, and...
It's full.
It's very, very full. Like, by the time I put water in there, it's not a lot of room left.
I know, but you need... you don't want a diastatic mash. Maybe you do.
Yeah, I do. I want to convert starches into sugars.
Okay. Well, all that's left here is... now all we have to do is wait an hour and pour yourself a homebrew. That's right. You've earned that. You want to heat... We want to heat some sparge water too. An easy calculation for your sparge water is 75% of your starting water volume plus a gallon. So, you want your sparge water at 170 degrees Fahrenheit. I like to add a gallon in case of, this is simple math, the arithmetic mistakes that I make.
Yeah.
In the worst case, you'll have an extra gallon of water to heat up, and you'll use it to clean up.
Mashing, that's thirsty work, and so is talking about it. So when we get back from the break, we are turning the moisture meters all the way to 11, and we're going to talk all about sparging. Ooh. We'll be right back.
All right.
H&M, we're in. The hops, they're glowing. Those aren't ordinary hops, Agent X. Northwest Brewers Supply sources the finest ingredients to create beers that elevate consciousness. So that's why the IPA crowd keeps coming back. Hoppy, hazy, or heavenly. It's not a conspiracy, it's science, and it starts at Northwest Brewers Supply.
Don't just drink beer, brew beer. Find out more at nwbrewers.com. The truth is in the brewing.
Welcome back, because it's sparging time.
Yeah.
All right, so that just means we're going to rinse those grains. We're going to, we've got to separate the solids from the liquids, and we've got to rinse the grains out, too. So, I want to backtrack a little bit. If you've got a, depending on your configuration, if you got a brew in a bag, you got to pick the bag up out of the liquid, out of your kettle, to separate your solids from your liquids. If you've got a false bottom mash tun, you've got to be draining into your boil kettle. Those are kind of things, and then you have to rinse the grains. That's sparging.
Fancy.
You can batch sparge, which is super easy. There's another way called fly sparging or continuous sparging if you want to feel fancy.
Well, really, sparkling means sprinkle.
Sparging means sprinkle. Yeah. German.
So it basically describes the way the water's distributed over the mass in order to rinse the grains. If you gently sprinkle the water, then it'll run through the grain bed, and it's going to avoid, like if you pour it in, if you just pour it in from a pitcher, it's going to be like drilling.
Water drilling, yeah.
And it'll go into one column, because water's going to find the easiest way down, and it's going to go in.
Yeah, water drilling, following that little divot in your grain bed, is a little bit of erosion, the same way that the Colorado River carved out the Grand Canyon. And if we allow it to drill that hole, we've got a drain, and it's all going to go down the drain, and we're going to have poor performance during the mash. So that sprinkling...
Water's just going to go down
the drain. It's terrible.
With your sugars and all.
So if you have pouring it over the back of a spoon or a plate or something like that, or there's some hardware that'll do that job for you. You're just trying to slow the water down so it's not falling on your grain bed. And that's kind of that sprinkling action. If you imagine like your watering can in the garden kind of thing, pouring a bunch of little holes. That would something like that would do the trick too.
Right. Well, depending on your setup, there's a couple options. If you have a 3-vessel system, which you may have seen. It's gravity fed. This allows us will separate the liquid from the grains while we're simultaneously rinsing them at the same time. Because
So yeah, that little orchestrated movement, you're gonna rinse those grains. Should take about 30 to 60 minutes to accomplish.
just like you're recirculating.
Yeah, what I always found in practice though is by the time I got the outflow into the kettle matched the inflow from the sparge water, a slow enough rate, I would run out of sparge water, and the whole process would be done in under 15 minutes. And for efficiency's sake, I may have been leaving some sugars behind.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at some point you're going to hear about mash efficiency. It just means that the sugars are produced and they're removed from the total sugars available from your grain bill. If that explanation has your eyes glazing over, don't worry. Obsessing about efficiency is chasing the dragon.
Yeah, worry about running out of beer before you worry about efficiency.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about it.
This is a hobby. It's supposed to be fun, and if the math's no fun, doesn't make you happy, don't fucking do it.
Right.
Fly sparging for me lost its appeal, so I switched to batch sparging.
Were you concerned about efficiency?
I didn't care. So batch sparging is simple. I drain the mash tun into the kettle, and that volume, we're going to call that the first runnings. And when the mash runs dry, we're going to refill the mash tun with 170-degree water. How much is dependent. So we calculated earlier and prepared water volume that's 75% of your strike water volume plus a gallon. But how much we add to the vessel actually depends on how much we collected. So I take a look at my first runnings, and I know that for my the average batch of beer we need 6 to 6.5 gallons of wort to start with. That's a pre-boil volume. So if I take a look at the first runnings and I have about 3.5 gallons, then it's pretty simple math to figure out that I need 3 gallons of sparge water.
Okay.
I like that. It's simple. I don't have to fuck around.
Well, most of the electric all-in-one systems perform a hybrid fly sparge and batch sparge approach. We won't get into too much detail as we're probably going to do a
It's gonna be a great show.
on electric
Hell yeah.
brewing. We'll include that in that show.
If you're getting started with an electric setup, follow the manufacturer's suggestion for a breakdown on that process. They're usually pretty accurate.
Yeah. Well, here's a pro tip: don't throw those spent grains away. You want to take them to your bread, make them into bread, dog treats, use them in your garden, compost them. Sustainable brewing, right?
Yeah. Dog treats, I've made that. Tastes pretty good too.
Peanut butter dog treats.
Peanut butter spent grain dog treats. Tastes pretty good.
See, what else did I used to make out of them? I think I've made some like crackers, some kind of cracker out of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had some crackers made of them. Crispy boys.
Crispy boys.
So what about when things go wrong? Maybe your gravity's low, your mash temp was off, anything like that. Relax. Don't worry. It's time to have a home brew. Well, this is not an exhaustive list. Here are some of the major reasons for poor performance.
Dough balls. That's one of them. We talked about it earlier. So you know what to do now. So next on the list is sparging too quickly. Whether you do the batch sparge or the fly sparge, if you're in a rush, you're going to leave sugars behind. That is for sure. So take your time. It's, brewing's not about saving time. It's your hobby. It's about enjoying the process. So be patient. You're always going to have a home brew. Let it sit. If you can work it out to where you're going to fly sparge and you're coming out of your mash tun into your kettle at the right flow rate, you're going to relax. You just want a slow rate of flow.
Chill out, dude.
Yep.
For those of you with a false bottom mash tun, water drilling was already covered, but a variation on that is an unlevel mash tun. If your mash tun if it's off kilter, water seeks its own level, and as you drain, you're going to have a low side on your grain bed. This has the same effect as water drilling, as the path of least resistance is down the drain.
Yeah, these things happen time to time. And here's what you can do about it. Every all-grain homebrewer has a secret stash of dry malt extract just in case.
Oh, they don't talk about it, but they got one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. if your mash performance turns out to be poor, you can always rescue your beer by supplementing with a little bit of DME.
Yeah. 1 pound of dry malt extract in 5 gallons in 5 gallons of wort is going to raise the gravity by like 7.5 gravity points. It's 7.5 to 9 gravity points per pound in 5 gallons. That's a good one to keep in your notes and just keep it in the back of your head, because those happy little accidents, they could mean the difference. They could make the batch better.
Yep.
The Bob Ross style of brewing, make it a feature, not a bug.
Right. And you can keep the DME in a Tupperware.
Oh, sure. Just keep it dry.
Yep.
Even if it got wet and turned into a brick, you can still use it. Yeah, it doesn't care. Yeah.
You may care, but it doesn't care.
Yeah. Your beer doesn't care about a lot of things, actually.
Right. Well, write everything down when you do this. You're going to keep notes. This is going to help you tweak things the next time you brew. You always want to keep your notes. You always want to look back at what you've done. And if you get stuck, drop by Northwest Brewer Supply, and they'll always be happy to troubleshoot with you.
Yeah. And for those of you who do want to dive deeper into the topic, check out, we've got some all-grain brewing classes that we're going to try to do at the shop, and we're going to take you through everything step by step, hands-on. So check the classes calendar at nwbrewers.com.
Now, I wouldn't even need to have any equipment, right?
No. So for the all-grain class, I've got 2 electric setups, so I'll be able to shorten the class a little bit, but I'll have people doughing in, and we'll fast forward through the mash into the sparge, and we'll skip the boil, because I'm assuming
everybody knows how to boil.
Yeah. So come by and that's a good class.
But hold on, now you've got 2 brews going.
So I can end up with 10 gallons of beer.
Who's gonna finish the brews?
Well, there's usually some
students want.
There's usually some volunteers.
They want to stick around.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, all right. So let's recap this. So start with all grain brewing. You'll need some new gear, a mash paddle, solid beginner's recipe, and a bit of patience. So it's a step up from extract brewing, but it's worth it, and it's the next progression.
Yeah. And remember, guys, you're not alone in this. We've got all grain recipes ready to go at northwestbrewers.com. Got classes. I'm here to chat with you guys every step of the way. Let's make something tasty.
Extractly. So take the next step. Check out the links in the episode description and make your brewing dreams a reality.
Thanks for tuning into the Beer Craft. Don't forget to subscribe and share this episode with your brewing buddies. Until next time, guys. Cheers.
Cheers, folks. Thanks for listening to
The Beer Craft.